At Jedi Master Ray asks, if you could meet one character from the Star Wars universe and ask them one question, who would you pick and what would you ask? I think I would go with Rey. Honestly, just because I want to know if she's happy. I want to know if she's doing okay.
I mean, I would have to go with my favorite character ever, Biggs Darklighter. I would ask him how he made such a glorious mustache. It's something that I just did for the first time. I grew my very first mustache, and it was itchy. I didn't really care for it. I want to know how he felt about his mustache. Hi, I'm Alex Damon.
And I'm Molly Damon, and this is Star Wars Support.
At Andy Keach asks, when did it become bad for Mandalorians to remove their helmets in front of people? Jango Fett is often without his helmet, and in the Clone Wars you see Mandalorians without them. This was pretty definitively answered in Chapter 11 of The Mandalorian, where we see Bo-Katan, one of those Mandalorians from the Clone Wars. She shows up, she takes her helmet off. Our Mandalorian, the hero of the show, is all aghast. And we learn that he has been raised in basically a cult of the Mandalorian people. I assume the Children of the Watch is related to Death Watch because we saw Din get rescued by members of Death Watch in Season 1.
Kind of an extremist version of Mandalore culture.
Exactly that. So it's okay for most Mandalorians to take their helmets off. It's just that this one sect, the Children of the Watch, demand that you leave your helmet on. At Sarah_Wolf, maybe something I shouldn't say out loud, says, quick question, if I want to start watching Star Wars, in which order should I watch the movies? I'm always a big proponent of just release order.
Yeah, me too.
The reason I think that is because every movie builds on what came before it, even if they chronologically take place earlier. So, yeah, the prequels, I think, are better viewed having seen the original trilogy. Even small things like Rogue One kind of has a hint for The Last Jedi, a small little Easter egg that you can catch, and everything just does this little story building thing if you watch it in release order. There's
really no wrong way or wrong order to watch the Star Wars movies in, but yeah, I think we prefer just release order date.
For a first-time viewer, yeah. I would say watch them in the order that they were released.
Stuart Webb asks, now here's another question for the real Star Wars nerds. Are all the characters that look like humans the same species that have colonized lots of planets, or is it a Star Trek parallel evolution thing and Han and Leia are different types of aliens?
I am not familiar enough with Star Trek, surprise, surprise, to know exactly what the parallel evolution thing is. I would guess that humans are the same across the board, at least in Legends, that Coruscant was their home world, and then they spread out. I think it's probably something similar here, that humanity probably had a home world and then colonized other planets.
Yeah, as far as Star Wars goes, and their species, a lot of them are just described as human, or every once in a while, for instance, Dryden Voss is described as humanoid.
Or near human even. It definitely sounds like maybe sometimes interbreeding has created near human species, but for the most part, I would say that like Han and Leia are the same.
Eric Michael Garcia says, binge watching Clone Wars, and I have an important question. Did Obi-Wan know about Anakin and Padme?
I think 100%. There's that scene where Anakin has a holo call with Padme, and Rex is kind of guarding the door because he knows what's going on, and then he's trying to keep Obi-Wan out of that room, and then Obi-Wan later says to Anakin something like, I hope you at least said hi to Padme for me. Like, he knows.
And there's that moment in Revenge of the Sith when Obi-Wan basically deduces that Padme's child is Anakin's. Ken Collins says, I have a question for all the Star Wars Legends fans. Havoc Squadron versus Delta Squadron. Who would win?
So Havoc and Delta Squadrons were basically Republic commando units. They were very elite squads of clone troopers. We actually see Delta Squadron in the Clone Wars episode Witches of the Mist, so they are canon. Havoc has yet to be mentioned in canon as far as I know. I like Delta Squadron more. I had more experience with them. I'm mostly just choosing them over my own connection with them. I would prefer that they win. I really liked the Republic Commando game. Yeah, I'll go with Delta Squadron.
I mean, based off the name alone, I want to pick Havoc Squadron. But...
Okay, well, a house divided.
At Tailsteak says, Star Wars lore question. The Jedi are a religion, right? Do you have to be Force sensitive to practice the religion? If someone is born without Force sensitivity but still adheres to the teachings, would they be recognized as a non-Force using Jedi?
In canon, we don't really know a whole lot about the history of the Jedi. In Legends, there was a whole thing with the Tho-Yor, and like basically a bunch of people around the galaxy like felt the calling of the Force, and it brought them all to this one place where they started the Jedi religion, and that evolved into the Jedi. For canon, we don't really know how the first Jedi were on Ahch-To. We don't know if they were all Force sensitive or if they were just trying to access whatever they were calling the Force at that time, if they knew there was something to their galaxy that they could tap into. It's possible that they were all just a bunch of dudes that figured it out.
Yeah, there's that mosaic on Ahch-To of what they called the Prime Jedi, but I think that's more of an example of what a Prime Jedi is, perfectly balanced yin and yang.
There is something called the Church of the Force. Lor San Tekka in The Force Awakens was a member of that. So there are definitely people who believe in the Force but might not be able to touch it in the same way that the Jedi do. I would guess that at least the Jedi of the prequel era would not recognize anyone that couldn't use the Force. They are very strict, rule-based, rigid. So I don't think that they would be like, oh, you can't use the Force, but you still want to be one of us? Like, come on in. I don't see them trying to nurture anyone in that way.
Yeah, I don't think they would be considered Jedi in that case. The first person that came to my mind was Maz Kanata. It seems like she has some connection to the Force, but she wouldn't consider herself a Jedi. Every living being does have some connection to the Force. It's like whether or not you tap into that.
Well, I personally believe that anyone in the Star Wars galaxy has the capability to use the Force. They just need to be taught how. I mean, Luke went from not knowing what it was to blowing up the Death Star in like a day. I think that it's on purpose that in the prequel era, we see the Jedi like testing Anakin's blood to be like, well, what's his metachlorian count like? And is it worth it to bring him in? And I actually think that is like a fault of the Jedi, is that they're testing potential instead of like passion. If someone is like, I want to become a Jedi, and it's like, I want to learn this stuff, and they're like, well, we don't think it's worth the time to train you. I kind of think that's what the prequel era Jedi, what George was trying to say with them. At Tavanor CD says it's time to bring back Philosophy Friday with a Star Wars twist. Answer the question, was Luke Skywalker correct in his assessment of the Jedi during The Last Jedi? Are the Jedi fundamentally flawed in how they approach the Force?
His first sort of lesson that he gives to Rey in The Last Jedi is that the Force does not belong to the Jedi, and he talks about how flawed they were in their teachings. I think that was pretty spot on.
I think that the Jedi of the prequel era had lost their way. I absolutely think that that was George Lucas's intent in the prequel trilogy. They were very different from the way many of us imagined them to be when we just saw the original trilogy. And then I think he doubled down on that when you get into the Clone Wars series. At Rebecca Brinker says, quick question for Star Wars fans. Think Vader ever fell asleep at a meeting that should have been an email? I mean, he's got the helmet on, so who would know? Yes, I want that to be true very badly now.
It would depend on his breathing, whether or not people would notice, I guess.
What do you think snoring sounds like with that helmet on?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess if he maybe just started to slump over, people would be like, hey, Vader.
I'm awake.
I'm trying to think of an excuse he could give in a situation like this. Like, oh, I had a firmware update. At Rabbit Sola has a question for any Star Wars nerds. That would be us. What is an extremely expensive / precious material in the galaxy far, far away? That would be equivalent to gold or diamonds to us. Kyber? Beskar?
Those were the first two that popped into my mind.
I think Beskar is pretty close because it seems like everyone Mando comes across and they realize what his outfit is made out of, they want to immediately steal it because it's worth a lot of money.
Beskar is what Mandalorian armor is made out of. It's very durable. It's nearly blaster-proof. The only thing we've really seen truly destroy Beskar armor is a mudhorn so far. But yeah, it's a very precious metal, a rare metal that Mandalorian armor is made out of, but also it can be used as currency. Kyber crystals are the crystals that power a Jedi's lightsaber. They were also used to power the Death Star's super laser. They are called living crystals. They have a connection to the Force. They would call out to Jedi, and that's how they would find their lightsaber crystal. I would guess that maybe Kyber crystals are even more rare with the Jedi not around. I mean, even when the Jedi were around, like lightsabers on the black market were highly prized. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with both of those. I know that there are things, the comics recently brought back in like ruby sapphires, and the same precious gemstones that we have in the real world exist out there. But I mean, Kyber crystals and Beskar still seem to be more rare and valuable. General Clanker says sometimes before death, the separatist battle droids of the Star Wars prequels yell, "Oh my god." So that begs the question, who introduced them to religion? Were they programmed with religious beliefs? And who is the droid god? Well, I do think that they have some sort of belief system. I mean, it might just be something they say, but 3PO says, "Thank the Maker."
Yeah, I was going to bring up the idea of the Maker, and I assume that's just who created them. Is 3PO thanking Anakin in that sense?
It might just be kind of a thing that they say, like, thank the person that gave me life. But there is definitely an argument to be had that droids are sentient. I mean, L337, I think, proves that. So I don't know that the battle droids were programmed to have religion, but I do think that it's possible for them to just develop it on their own without constant memory wipes.
At i2 Studios says, very important question from @BlockbustedPod. Is this the first sweater in Star Wars?
Well, I mean, everyone kind of went nuts for Ben Solo's good boy sweater in The Rise of Skywalker.
Very good boy.
This might be the first fisherman sweater, though.
Like the first cable knit sweater, yeah. I'd say.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone on Hoth wearing one. That feels like the place you'd see one. Galen Erso kind of has one on Lamu.
Did they wear them in the holiday special, the original one?
No, but you are right about the new Lego one. Vader wears a Christmas sweater.
Yeah, it's a Lego sweater, but it's still meant to be a sweater.
My question with this Mon Calamari sweater man, though, how does he get it on and off without just stretching the neck hole out? And not to mention their forearms are huge. So how do you get like your sleeves on? They would rip that sweater apart.
Maybe the back is just covered in buttons.
Yeah.
And they just have to button it up front to back.
Hector Roman says, Bo-Katan has been alive since the first 6 movies and she still looks good. Question, how old is she? Bo-Katan is the sister of Duchess Satine Kryze, who used to be in charge of all of Mandalore. She ruled Mandalore space. She was kind of a controversial leader because she was trying to make Mandalorians more pacifist. They used to be hardcore conquerors and very aggressive, violent people, and she was trying to help her people evolve beyond that. Bo-Katan was a member of a group called Death Watch that opposed the pacifism. So Bo-Katan was actually a Mandalorian terrorist for a while, but she has since kind of come around. She tried to save her sister's life and failed, and since then has been fighting what I would say is the good fight. I think there's still some darkness in her, and I hope the series continues to explore that. My best guess is 50, 55. I would say that she could be like 20 at the very youngest in the Clone Wars, and then you're adding about 30 years onto that for the time of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, we discussed this a little bit after seeing this amazing episode of The Mandalorian, and I decided that because Mandalorians wear helmets most of the time, she just hasn't gotten a lot of sun damage. So yeah, she looks great.
John Carl says, not a critique, but a genuine question. Prior to the Rey trilogy, was astral projection ever established in Star Wars, either in canon or Legends? I can't remember seeing it before this trilogy for the life of me. This book, The Jedi Path, is technically a Legends book, but page 132 talks about a power called Doppelganger, which is exactly what Luke does in The Last Jedi. Also, you could do it in one of the old Dark Forces games where you play Mara Jade. You could make a doppelganger to confuse your enemies and basically just have another copy of you running around fighting.
Alex Geyer says, Star Wars question, why do they call it an X-Wing when the in-universe standard language, the letter for X looks like a triangle?
So yes, Arabesh is the most prominent alphabet within Star Wars, but it's not the only alphabet. There exists I think it's called the High Galactic Alphabet, and that is our own. So there is an A, a B, a C, and an X in Star Wars, and I guess the people that make those ships just preferred that alphabet.
Hayes Brown has a question. How does being strong in the Force run in families if Jedi, in theory the most in tune, aren't allowed to have families?
I think that the Skywalker blood was kind of a special case.
That's definitely how it started. It was a special case, the chosen one,
he was
prophecy,
literally
all that stuff.
Anakin was born of the Force.
Yes.
And it seems like, any offspring he had and his line would also just be very strong in the Force. Mm-hmm. But that is not like a tried and true, definite, yes, every Jedi is going to have a Force-sensitive child. If you go back to some Legend stuff, the Old Republic era, Revan and Bastila, they were two very powerful Jedi, and they did have some children who were Force sensitive, but if you go down the line, their descendant Satine had a son Theron, and he was not Force sensitive at all. So it's not a given that two Jedi or one Jedi are going to have Force sensitive children.
What a bummer that would be, to be the only non-Force sensitive sibling.
Oh, he definitely had a complex about it.
Yeah. Alexander Yard says, good morning. Here's a question for my Star Wars geeks. What sabacc hand was Han Solo holding when he won the Falcon from Lando?
They didn't reveal that in Solo. I'm going to go Idiot's Array. That's the hardest hand to get.
I mean, it's got to be either that or full sabacc. Those are the two big winning hands, correct?
Idiot's Array is unbeatable. Full sabacc is the one that Lando was probably trying to go for, since he wanted that little green Psylop.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it was full sabacc, but I think there's also different versions of sabacc that you can play.
There are, yes. And even they were said to be playing Numidian Prime rules mm-hmm. While they were there. And yeah, Han's gold dice are supposed to be... This is something I was hoping to see, because the visual dictionaries say that his gold dice were used for him to win the Millennium Falcon in a version of the game called Corellian Spike, but we didn't see that happen, so that probably isn't true. That visual dictionary bit got overwritten, but he never revealed his hand, so we don't know.
At Dr. Seekers says, here's the real question. Does Batu celebrate Christmas? Because I'd love to see how Black Spire does the holidays. That's a good question. With all the actual spires, I think it would be neat to have all those decorated with lights. And
I bet they celebrate Life Day. Life Day is the Star Wars equivalent of the holidays, Christmas, or whatever you want to call it. And it's traditionally a Wookiee celebration, them just celebrating life on their home world of Kashyyyk, but it seems like it has spread throughout the galaxy a little bit more, and it's usually held on November 17th. And Life Day comes from the notorious original 1978 Star Wars holiday special that George Lucas has since described as wishing he could hunt down every copy and destroy it with a hammer. It's a rough watch, frankly.
It's a little trippy, but they did recently revise it and made a Lego holiday special that just came out a couple of days ago, actually, and it was just a ball of fun. If we're talking strictly the Batu that we see at Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland and Disney World, I have to imagine they're going to decorate it during the holidays. Maybe we'd see Chewie's family there just walking around the park. But yeah, I have to imagine Batu celebrates Life Day or some form of it. Thank you all so much for your Star Wars questions.
This has been Star Wars Support.